Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports.
And hello again, everybody. It's Tuesday night in Tuscaloosa. That means it's time for Tider Insider TV. As you heard, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. Visit Tuscaloosa. I'm WVOA 23 Sports Director Gary Harris, alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. And Rod, the first day of the SEC baseball tournament is single elimination. In other words, no margin for error. You either win and play in the double elimination round and get 2 more games minimum, or you go home. Alabama had a tough matchup with South Carolina. Crimson Tide, though, the number 7 seed. The Gamecocks, the 10 seed. And Alabama had taken 2 of 3 from South Carolina in the regular season. Greg Ferrone on the hill for Alabama had a pretty good outing. Went 2 2/3, easy. First 2 innings, gets the strikeout looking here in the top of the first. And Alabama got some early offense behind red-hot William Hamilton. The former Northridge star has been lighting it up. He gets an RBI single right there to stake the Tide to a 1-0 lead. And Bama would lead 3-0 in the third, and that's when it got away in a hurry. Ferrone was taken out with 2 outs, and Aiden Mosa comes in. And South Carolina caps off a 6-run top of the third with Dalton Reed's grand slam. Alabama got it back to 6-5 in the fourth on a Hamilton RBI double as he continued to swing a hot bat but could get no closer. Carolina goes on to win it 10-5, eliminating Alabama in the process. Now the Tide will wait it out to find out if they are going to get into an NCAA regional. That is the expectation, Rod. But here's the downside. Not only do you lose, but you get knocked out. You don't get an opportunity to play at least 2 more games. And you could have really secured the regional with a win today. I mean, it would have been a no-brainer. I think Alabama's still going to get in. I do think they'll probably drop from a 3 seed to from a 2 seed to a 3 seed. But this was an opportunity lost today. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, it was. It was. You're right, Gary. But you know what? It is what it is. Now you just have to hope for the best, get the regional, and move forward. That's really all you can do.
Yeah, and, after the game, head coach Rob Vaughn met with the media in a press conference, and he said, I just got through listening to him before I came out here, he said, I like our resume. I think we're in. You look at our entire body of work. Now, there is no doubt that you win the game today, and it's not even a discussion, but the SEC is the strongest conference in the country. Alabama was very competitive in that league. They played a great non-conference schedule. Like I said, I think they're in. Unfortunately, last year, they were back in a hosting role, which they hadn't done in a while. They hosted a regional and, went to the Super at Wake Forest and came within a game of going to the College World Series. This year, you're hoping to get in. It's going to be a tougher draw when you're on the road, which is what is going to be the case.
Yeah, no doubt. And, like you said, Gary, they had some big series wins this year. There's no question about it throughout the SEC season. Here at the end, they've struggled a little bit, obviously. But, again, you have to kind of wait, see where they're seated, see where the regional is, where they're going. And, once they get there, it's like we've seen in some of these other sports, Gary. It's really what happens from now on.
Yeah.
And we've seen that happen. We saw it happen in basketball. We've seen it happen in softball. Hopefully it'll happen in baseball.
Yeah, and nobody cries. There's no crying in baseball. Nobody feels sorry for Alabama. But, the injuries, again, bit this team with the pitching staff early on, and you were battling uphill a little bit. But if they can get into the regional, like you said, Rod, you know what? You start 0-0.
That's right.
So who knows? Maybe they could work some postseason magic the way that Alabama softball did. Crimson Tide secured its spot in an NCAA record 18th Super Regional round after a dominant 5-inning 12-2 win on Sunday over Southeastern Louisiana. The Crimson Tide really got it going, Rod. They came into this regional, the Tuscaloosa NCAA regional, having struggled on offense, really the second half of the season. They started out, they won a 1-0 game over USC Upstate, 1-0. Then in game 2 against Southeastern Louisiana, it was 1-1 in the top of the 9th when Valentine came off the bench. Riley Valentine hit a pitch hit home run. They scored 5 in the inning. They wound up winning 6-3. And then Sunday, this game, 9 runs and 10 hits in the first inning. One of their best ever innings in a regional. They cruised to a 12-2 5-inning win over Southeastern Louisiana and get on to the Super Regional. Patrick Murphy always says, all you can do is look ahead, look forward. You can't look back. He is confident once this team gets to the postseason. Hey, some people will say it wasn't that strong a field with Clemson, Southeastern, and USC upstate, but Alabama took care of business.
They were sandbagging, weren't they, Gary?
Maybe so.
I mean, Murphy knew exactly what he was doing. You know, he said last week, he said, look, you know, it really doesn't matter how poorly we've played or how great we've played. It's a new season, and they turned on the juice, man. They exploded. That was an offensive explosion. You've been waiting for it to see it happen. So let's see if it can carry over. It's a big challenge coming up in Knoxville.
There's the Valentine home run, which really is what just set this off on Saturday. And she had been struggling mightily at the plate. But Murph has a knack for calling in a pinch hitter to come through, and this was a shot. I mean, this was a no doubt.
I think I said this last year after Super.
It's like struggle, pressing, not getting good at bats. Then all of a sudden, you know, the 2-run homer, and then you score 3 more runs, and then Sunday, 12 runs in the inning. So Alabama is off to the Super Regional in Knoxville. More on that in a moment. That's going to be tough. But right now it's time for Coach Talk. And let's get to Alabama softball, having won 18 regional titles under head coach Patrick Murphy. But he says this one really felt special and significant because of where this team came from.
I think I said this last year after Super Regionals that that was the most gratifying. This might have been the most gratifying regional win of my career. And just what we've gone through, what we've been through, ups and downs, you know, a lot of downs. And they never once quit. I always said the best is yet to come. And wherever you're at in life, the best is yet to come for all of us. You got to believe that. And I think they bought into that. And today might have been our best game of the year. And what a time to have it.
It's a great philosophy. And I know fans don't want to hear it when you're losing, but when you win, it sure looks good that he kept that positive attitude. And he's, as he said, you know, they won that regional. For where this team had been most of the season, and they were at home, and I expected them to win the regional, but still you got to go out and do it. And they did it in dominant fashion.
Well, I think you look at Patrick Murphy, Gary, the experience that he has. He's won a lot of big games, obviously won a national championship. He knows how to get a team ready. I mean, even a team that struggled, I think he knew what they needed. And I think what he said last week was great. I thought it was the perfect thing to say. When we watched it here on Tighter Insider, he said, look, you know, he said, it really doesn't matter what we've done. I mean, I think that takes a lot of pressure off the players. It's a new season. There's a lot of talented players on that team. Yeah. It was a matter of them starting to play up to their potential. Murphy has a way of getting them ready in those circumstances.
2 wins away from another Women's College World Series, but it's not going to be easy. Alabama will travel to Knoxville for the NCAA Super Regional against Tennessee, which did not give up a run. I mean, didn't give up a run in the regional. First game is going to be on Friday at 3 o'clock Central Time. It will air on ESPN2. Game 2 is Saturday at 2 o'clock. And the Game 3 game, if necessary, will be on Sunday. No game time has been announced. Now, Tennessee won 2 out of 3 against Alabama in the regular season. Alabama only scored 1 run, but did manage to win that Sunday game behind Caleb Beaver 1-0 to get a victory in the series. So then they can beat Tennessee. Tennessee is a juggernaut, really. They're the best team in the SEC, I think. They've been that way the entire season. Great starting pitching, unbelievable offense. But, Rod, what you're trying to do, I think, is obviously get it to Sunday. You know, just find a way to win one of those first 2, and then you'll take your chances.
I think that's a great point, Gary. Get it to Sunday. You know, you find a way to split one of those first 2s, put yourself in a position to win. You never know what can happen.
And we will be watching closely. And last year's team, you know, we got hot at the right time. They made it all the way to Oklahoma City. Wouldn't it be something if Alabama goes on the road to Knoxville and shocks the world and beats their arch rival, the Tennessee Vols, in the Super Regional? Well, still to come on Tighter Insider Television, Alabama football recruiting is hot, and now 2026 is already starting to come into focus. Find out the latest Crimson Tide players the latest players to say they want to play for the Crimson Tide, and a couple of good defensive backs, which is something they're looking for in the future. We'll have the latest next, and Rodney will break it down. And we'll be getting your phone calls, emails, and tweets in just a little bit here on the show. The phone number, as always, 205-348-WVOA. That's 348-9882. Or you can email us at the address on your screen. This is the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide. I've been doing it for like 24 years now. Tighter Insider TV will return right after this break. And welcome back to Tider Insider Television, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. Visit Tuscaloosa. Alongside Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Alabama football went 2 for 2 over the weekend, landing 2 DBs for the class of 2026, and they did it in 2 days. We'll start with the latest. On Sunday, Dorian Barney committed to the Crimson Tide. He's a 4-star quarterback from Peachtree Ridge High School in Sewanee, Georgia. There's the tweet. The wait is over. I'm home, RTR. Now, we'll see if he's still home December of next year. It's a long time to go. Barney's a 6'1", 180-pound defensive back, a top 50 player nationally, the number 4 quarterback in the 2026 class, according to 247 Sports Composite Rankings. Had an offer list from practically everybody in the country. Last season, 4 picks, 10 passes broken up, 2 quarterback hurries, and 32 tackles for Peachtree Ridge. Rodney, this is a guy now that, again, you can watch the video of him, but that offer list alone would tell you he is highly sought after. And yes, I know it's not until 2026, but you have to continue to recruit these young men like it's going to stick, and this is a big, big pickup.
I think you watch him right there. You see his size, you see his athleticism. Gary, when he was in the 9th grade as a freshman in high school, he led the state of Georgia with 12 interceptions, had 4 last year, I think it was, Gary. I'm sorry, he had 8 interceptions as a freshman. He's got 12 in his career already, so that's a phenomenal stat to lead the state of Georgia over there. A lot of talented players, but to be able to go into that state, get an early commitment from him is really big. You mentioned some of the schools: Michigan, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Texas. Who's who? Yeah.
And you know what? DBs are going to be important in this 4-2-5 scheme run by defensive coordinator Coach Womack. So you got to gain Womack. You got to get more of them. And Alabama got one on Saturday, too. In-state prospect for 2026, Jamarian Juice Gordon, a 4-star safety out of Jackson High School, which is a really good program here down north of Mobile. They've turned out a lot of players. Number 186 prospect in the country, according to 247 Sports Composite. Had offers from Auburn, Florida, Georgia, LSU, Miami, Oregon, and Penn State. As a sophomore, he had 30 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 7 pass deflections, and 1 pick as Jackson reached the quarterfinals of the Class 4A state playoffs. Tell us what you like about Jamarian Juice Gordon. I like that nickname, Juice Gordon, myself.
That's a great nickname. No, look at him there. He's a kick return guy. A guy can make big plays. Obviously, he's got good speed. He's got size. He's an in-state kid. I think that's important as well. When you can get the top in-state players, to get him early, I think is really big, Gary. But he's a really competitive kid. I think, too, his versatility. You look at him, he can play corner, can play safety, can play that star position. He can do so many different things. And a lot of these guys that they're getting have that versatility to play those multiple positions, which I think is extremely important.
Yeah, and we won't concern ourselves that Jackson's uniforms look like a lot like LSU there because he's going to Alabama, and that's all that matters. All right, that's the latest on recruiting. Still to come on TITV, an Alabama men's tennis player is making noise at the NCAA Championships. We'll have more on that. And up next, your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Phone lines I'm told are open. Let's make sure that doesn't stay the case. 205-348-9882. 205-348-9882. There's the email address as well. TITV wants to hear from you, Tider Insider Nation. We'll be right back after this. Alabama's Filip Planinsek is Sweet 16 bound. The Alabama junior beat Ohio State's Kenan Kingsley in straight sets, 7-6, 7-5 in the NCAA Singles Championship, 7-6, 7-5 in the tiebreak in the first set, and then 6-1 in the second set at the NCAA Singles Championship in Stillwater, Oklahoma. It's the second time this season that Planinsek has beaten Kingsley. He also won in straight sets at the National Indoor Championships through 2 matches at the NCAA Championships. Planinsek has yet to drop a set. Way to go. That's big-time stuff. Maybe he'll win an NCAA championship. That would be big for Alabama as well. All right, welcome back into TITV with Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris, and it's time to head out on our phone lines. And tonight we're going to start it off with our pal Sammy up in Walker County. Hey, Sammy.
Thanks, Gary. And hello, Gary and Rodney. Glad to hear from y'all guys. Gary, I got 67 5-star prospects up here. You know, just wanted to let you know.
And they're all juicy red Jubilee tomatoes, I guess. Huh?
You know it. And the question I had, Gary and Rodney, is it apparent, or do y'all believe, like I believe, that this transfer from Washington will be the go-to receiver for Jalen Milroe? Thanks.
Well, I certainly think he's going to be one of them. I think in this offense they want to spread the ball around and make sure Jalen, goes to whoever's open. But he showed us at Washington last year, they're playing with some great receivers, that he's got a lot of physical talent, and then really stepped up at A-Day and was a star. So, I think he'll be one of the main cogs.
Yeah, and I think you're right. They do want to spread the ball around. You got a lot of really good tight ends. Don't forget that transfer from Washington, too. Josh Cuevas, a tight end. He's really good. C.J. Dupree, Robbie Oots. They got some other players. Danny Lewis, I thought, had a really big spring. They've got some backs that can catch the ball. We know about them. I think they may have the best group of backs in the country overall, Gary. But you look at that wide receiver core. Kendrick Law, I think he's going to make a lot of noise this year. He's going to have a good year. I think Kobe Prentice, you got Ryan Williams coming in. You got some other young players. Caleb Odom was the rave of spring, 6'5". He gives a guy that's got a lot of height. I mean, you got Bubba Hampton, who's a true freshman. You got Cole Adams, who's a redshirt freshman. Again, we mentioned Ryan Williams, Rico Scott coming in, Amari Jefferson. That's a list. That's a lot of guys. Now, who exactly will be the go-to guy? I'm like you, Gary. I think game to game it'll be depending on whoever gets that opportunity.
Can't wait to see Jalen Milroe in this offense. I really think he's going to take the next step as a quarterback. They're going to be fun to watch. All right, it's time for our email question of the day, and the email question of the day is brought to you by KDM Service Corporation. When it comes to heating and air conditioning, KDM Service Corporation serves your family like our family. Do you like that DeBoer is going to hold morning practices in the fall? That's from Tyler in Prattville. Good question. From our standpoint, I'm used to afternoon practices from the media. But you know what? The way class schedules are now, I think if you can get them in the morning, I think it's probably more favorable for the student athlete in terms of recovery, and that's the way they're going to do it. So, I guess I like it.
I like it because, look, if that's what he wants to do, that's what he should do. That's kind of the schedule I think they used it at Washington. I think, Gary, here's the thing. You practice in the morning, you get it over with, you go to class at 10 a.m., 10:30, whatever. You can come back in the afternoon. You've got plenty of time to do more. I think maybe you can get more accomplished having those practices in the morning.
Yeah, and it's something we're seeing around the country in all sports now. Again, it's a lot that has to do with online classes. Years ago, it wasn't that way, Rodney, because you went to classes in the morning and everything was cleared in the afternoon for your schedule, but it's a lot different now.
No, it's a lot different now. Like you said, they can take the online classes, and I really think, they've got this. Seems to give them more time, Gary. I think get in the afternoons, they can get back, watch film later that afternoon, get more productive in terms of the things that they can do with their schedules.
All right, still to come on Tighter Insider Television. Former Alabama golfer Justin Thomas made his return to his hometown for the PGA Championship, and he played well. Top 10 finish. More on that coming up. And we'll get to your phone calls, more of them, at 205-348-9882. Go ahead and give us a call. You can get through now. And we'll be right back with more Tighter Insider TV right after this. Justin Thomas's homecoming was a sweet one. The Louisville native was the crowd favorite at the PGA Championship at Valhalla Golf Club this past weekend. And on Saturday, JT chipped in for a birdie from a very unlikely spot there on the 3-par, way up there in the rough. He had 3 chip-ins total in the tournament. He had a good tournament. He finished tied for 8th at 13 under par, so he gets a top 10. And another former Alabama golfer, Lee Hodges, just outside the top 10. In fact, he bogeyed his last 2 holes on Sunday, or he would have been in the top 10. He shot to 12 under to finish tied for 12th overall. It's Hodges' career best finish at a major. But for JT, former Alabama golfer, playing in Louisville, it was quite an emotional moment for him. And, of course, Xander Schauffele won the PGA Championship. All right, welcome back into TITV, and we're going to continue with our phone calls and emails. Let's jump out on the phone lines and welcome in BT. Hey, BT, what's going on? BT with us?
I want to ask a question on,
okay.
Do you think that Alabama baseball could possibly get a regional?
Yeah, BT, thank you for the question. I do. We talked about it earlier. I think Alabama's going to get into a regional. I would like to have seen them one today, obviously, and played some more baseball over there. But I think the resume, I agree with Coach Vaughn, right? And we discussed this earlier. I think they've done enough to earn a spot in an upcoming NCAA regional.
Yeah, BT, we think it's going to happen. We think it's just a matter of time. When where and when, we don't know. But we'll find out soon.
All right. Thank you for the call, Bill. Let's get to an email question. And this is from Cat up in Haleyville, is Jalen Milroe a Heisman Trophy candidate? Cat, he is. Finished 6th last year. In fact, Rodney, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he might be the highest returning player in terms of Heisman voting from a year ago.
I think he is.
Yeah, he's a Heisman candidate. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to win it. I mean, he's going to have to go out and play well, but he's playing for what's been the best program in the country the last 15 years. He had a great season last year. If the team plays well and he plays well, yeah, I expect him to be in the Heisman hunt this season.
Definitely. You know, you start looking at all kind of if you want to call it the preseason hype, he's getting a lot of it. I mean, you look at mock drafts, Gary, there's some that have had him #1 overall, a couple of them. Again, those are, obviously, hard to make those kind of predictions, but he's certainly getting that preseason hype and you look at him, he could definitely win the Heisman Trophy, but he's certainly going to be one of the contenders for sure.
All right, let's get to one more email from Hank in Tuscaloosa. If Mark Sears doesn't come back, will Nate Oates sign another player from the portal? It's a good question, Hank. I don't know the answer. If Sears comes back, they're going to have 13 scholarship players. If not, they'll have 12. I hope he comes back, man. He could be the cherry on top of what is going to be a fabulous roster. It'll depend. If he doesn't come back, it's simply going to depend on what's out there and what's available. They're not going to sign a guy just to bring him in here, Rodney. So I think we just kind of have to wait and see on what happens first, and see how Nate Oates approaches it.
Well, and I think they're probably looking at it from both perspectives. If he doesn't come back, what's available? And then they're already preparing. If they find somebody they like, if they know of somebody they like, they're certainly probably already zeroing in on him. But again, we have to wait and see what Mark Sears does.
All right, thanks for the phone calls and emails. We'll be back right after this. Time to close it out here on TITV, but before we go, let's get to Nick and Terry Saban hosting the annual Nick's Kids Golf Tournament at Old Overton in Vestavia today. Kalen DeBoer and a lot of members of his staff was there. Mark Ingram, Tua Tagovailoa were there. Current players were there. It was a great, great event. Always a big fundraiser for Nick's Kids. That's going to do it for the show. We'll see you again next Tuesday night at 6:30.